Thank you for joining us. My name is Leah Dialey, and I'm the Senior Director of Education here at Travel Leaders Network, an Internova travel group company. Today, we have some great insights to share in the fourth session of this series in Economics of Owning a Travel Business. Each month, we will release a new segment in the Economics of Owning a Travel Business. Today's segment is on measuring success. How do you rate success? So today we have Martin Mussey, Business Development and Education Manager at Nexion US and Canada. Lee Thomas, Chief Operating Officer and President of Business Travel, the Travel Authority and Alltour. Roger Block, President of Travel Leaders Network and newly voted in for the National Board of Directors of ASTA. And so before we get started, though, let's talk a little bit first about ASTA. Roger, let's hear from you as to this new appointment.
Thank you, Leah. ASTA, which I'm so proud to be back on the board of directors. ASTA stands for the American Society of Travel Advisors and is the leading global advocate for travel advisors and the entire travel industry. Members of ASTA include individual advisors as well as all travel companies, meaning agencies, whether corporate, leisure, and even many of the tour operators, cruise lines, etc., are members of ASTA. It really is the leading advocacy group for the entire retail travel distribution system. And advocacy could be whether it's federal taxation, could be federal legislation, federal rulemaking, or state level. Many states get involved with not only taxation, but workers' rules, independent contractor rules. Some states have policies on registration. ASTA is our trade association that protects not only the travel distribution system, but also looks out for the traveling public. So I'm thrilled to be on it. It is an extremely worthwhile group. And if you're thinking about getting into the travel system, I strongly urge you to become a member of ASTA.
Yeah, and Roger, that website for them to find more information
is www.asta.org.
Okay, great. All right, so let's get into this about the economics and how important success is when owning a travel business. Martin, what does success really look like in the travel industry and the travel business?
Well, thank you, Leah. Gosh, I think this is such an interesting question because what does success look like? And kind of the title of our topic, how do we rate success? Success is really, I think, defined by each individual. Success is up to you. It's not the same for everybody. And it can sort of be a little bit intangible when we just think about success alone. So maybe a better question to sort of ask is, what does it take to achieve success as defined by you? And that's the way that I sort of approach this, question or this thought. And I think it comes down to a couple things. And one of them is being really clear about your goals, what it is that you do want to achieve. Every business owner is going to be different and what it is that they want to achieve. So it's also about setting intention. It's your mindset about what your approach is. And if you have good, clear business goals, you're going to be able to achieve that and measure success. So this is about making the intangible tangible through those goals. Again, just going back to success, for some successes, selling 4 cruise groups a year and leading them, and they're happy. That's it. For some, it's going to be all about achieving just, say an X number of dollar of earned revenue per year. And that's success to them. You've got everyone from part-time to full-time and in between. So, you've got to be able to define success for yourself. The way I think about it is sometimes if you looked back at your entire year and you thought to yourself, you know what, that really, I'm happy if I could achieve this by the end of this 12-month period. And at the end of that 12 months, you look back and you thought, you know what, I'm thrilled with that. Again, that might be the definition of success for somebody. So the last thing that I will leave everyone with is this, and this is tracking what I call a personal best board. We tend to compete against everybody else and what it is that they're doing. So I have seen this happen where people are like, well, why aren't I achieving what they're achieving? Don't worry about that. Track what I call personal bests. And what I mean by this is if you have a whiteboard or something that you just track, sheet of paper, note card, whatever it is in your office at for your agency, and track your personal bests, maybe in categories like number of bookings per month, the highest dollar booking, and some other great ones if you're really tracking your progress, number of prospects, number of quotes, number of bookings as it progresses through the sales cycle, and write down the highest number that you've achieved, and you're only allowed to erase it and create a new one when you have achieved your next personal best. I promise you that if you compete only against yourself, whatever success as defined by you that you have set out, you'll achieve that sooner rather than later. And I think that, to me, is how you go about tracking or rating success.
Thank you, Martin. Really good points. Really it takes a look at what it is you want to achieve and how you go about doing that. So really good insights. Thanks, Martin.
You bet.
So Lee, we're going to move on now into how someone might rate their success. Really the business aspect of being a business owner. Can you give us a little insights into what is used in our industry?
Yeah, thank you, Lee. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation again with our audience. And it's anytime we talk about data points, I generally get excited. So, one of my favorites that's commonly used in the industry is around the Net Promoter Score. It's a great indicator of how you're doing in your business. And I also love the simplicity of it because it's really just one question. Would you refer me to a friend or colleague? And then, you take away the results of that and try to, in terms of how you're managing your business. If you're not familiar with NPS, it really just looks at three primary categories. So if you look at a scale of 1 to 10, if you get a 0 to 6, they're termed detractors. These are people that are not going to promote you to a friend or colleague. If you get a 7 or 8, they're responding to your survey, but they're really more passive in their approach. But what you're really looking for is that 9 and 10 group that are going to be your promoters. And, I'm sort of stating the obvious here, but anytime you get somebody promoting your business, right, that's exactly what you want. And, one way to look at it too is referrals are the least expensive form of customer acquisition. When you think about the dollars that go into marketing and planning and timing and, both in print and social media, so on and so forth, those things are costly, but, referrals are very inexpensive, right? You get people that are talking about your business, promoting you and how you're going to be able to grow that business overall. I think one thing too, to sort of think about, when you're collecting these data points, it's not the end of the world when you get a detractor or even a passive, because you can take what you learn from that experience and how you're going to do your business better in the future at some point. So, it's a chance to reflect a little bit about how you're managing your business and how you're communicating with your customers. And it's definitely not impossible to convert a detractor to a promoter. And if you can do that, you've really done more than just promote your business. You found somebody that will be a raving fan. And I think at the end of the day, we all really get excited about raving fans within our business. Another sort of a segue to how we're managing tracking and information is around your customer profile. And so when you're thinking about the business you want to get into, do you have 3 customers or do you have 1,000 customers in terms of how you're building your business? And, it really kind of breaks down into a high yield platform or a lower yield platform. I think, it's sort of easy to say that everybody wants to get into the high yield business, but there are plenty of businesses that really thrive and roar around transactional efficiency as well. So, luxury travel or high yield travel definitely sounds like a lot more fun. And there are a number of good agencies out there that specialize in this space. I think, But statistically speaking, there's more low yielding customers available to you. So how do you kind of figure out what's the right mix for your business and how you're measuring that success? I kind of like to think of things sometimes using a car analogy. Would you want to be a Rolls Royce or do you want to be a Toyota? Both are great cars, but Toyota definitely sells a lot more cars than Rolls Royce does. And what I like about this particular analogy is that Toyota does a little bit of both, right? They have the higher cost or the higher yielding Lexus model, and then they have the more affordable Toyota brand. Both are great quality, but when you have the ability to sort of throw your net over a wider group of people, you have a lot more opportunity in terms of how you're growing your business overall. How do you attract, the high spend, high yielding business, but also how do you make sure that you're taking care of those that are more interested in affordable vacation? And again, from my perspective, if you want to build your business, you need a little bit of both. But you have to be careful when you take on a lot of low yielding business. It's about the value of your time. You want to make sure that the revenue that you're generating out of that transaction is worth it, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're paying yourself. And I think that's one of the most important measurements, right? Is that are you earning a living out of your chosen profession?
Very good points, Lee. Thank you.
Okay.
With any business, there are financial areas to consider. So Roger, I know you have seen a lot of financials over the 40 years that you have been in the travel industry. Can you shed some light on what our audience should be considering when looking at financials?
Leah, you didn't have to bring up the 40 years, so thank you on that. Before we start talking about financials and success, if you're really interested in getting into the travel business, or really any business at all, the first step, as Martin stated, is you really have to think about your individual goals for your business. And some of you may really want to build a business with many employees. Others may want to do this as a part-time opportunity to enhance your income. Some of you may have the goal literally of going out and seeing the world. And it's okay if you make a little bit of money, but your goal really is, I want to enjoy life. All these are very possible and totally realistic goals. And the path to success for each of these is different though. So I think you really need to think about where you're going, what your goals are, because without that, it's impossible to develop a plan or a roadmap of how you're going to get there. And for the sake of time, we obviously need to be as brief as possible as we start talking about these. So I just want to bring up a couple of possibilities. Let's assume for a minute, and I've worked with entrepreneurs, as Leah said, for over 40 years, building their own businesses, some from scratch, others as an existing business. But if your goal is to build a saleable asset, meaning that once you decide to retire, you have something you can sell to someone, that is one type of goal that's totally different than if you are planning on just selling travel for yourself. So let's think about this. If you're building a business that you want to sell, what does that buyer, that end buyer, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it is, what are they willing to pay for? As Leah said, in my decades, this is a shot. In my decades of working with entrepreneurs and agency owners, there's some key points that buyer is really looking for. And the first thing is profitability of the business. The reason the buyer is willing to pay the seller anything is that they're looking for a return on their investment. Most buyers aren't looking for a turnaround story, meaning a business that is losing money where they have to go in and fix it. They're looking for a business that is making money today, and it will look like it's going to make money in the future, which also means that the buyer is looking for a stable business with stable employees. The employees are the ones who really generate the sales and hence the profits. So if you're the owner and you're the only one who is actually selling travel, once you retire, there is no business left to sell. You're the only one generating the income. So there's the two sides of the coin. One is an employee-based business that is a sellable asset to someone else. The other is where you are the only one selling travel in our case. So neither are wrong, neither are right. It's what your goals are. Now, you can build an asset that can be maximized the sale price as you focus on employee productivity, you can focus on costs, and you can focus on stability and all these other things. In normal times, and I want to stress, we are not in normal times. We are filming this during this is October of 2021. The pandemic is definitely winding down, but the travel industry has been hit as hard or harder than almost any industry. In normal times, a leisure travel agency that's profitable will sell based on a multiple of earnings. And that could range any from 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe a little bit higher times earnings. Corporate agencies tend to sell at a little bit higher multiple, and that's due to the fact that the customer relationship with the advisors is different. The stability of the accounts tends to be longer, etc. Remember, I got back into what is the stability of the income stream. Corporate tends to be more stable than leisure. In many industries, especially the travel business, especially during this pandemic time, this is a buyer's market. Everyone believes that the market's coming back, but it's really a question of when and to what extent. So as a buyer in today's world, you can use that uncertainty to buy an agency literally at historically low multiples with very favorable terms. If I were actually in the market today, I would be a definite buyer of agencies. Remember the old adage, buy low, sell high? Well, now's the low. So now what if you're not really interested in getting into a type of business where you have employees and overhead and insurance requirements and rent restrictions, and what you really want to do is work with individuals and sell travel? Perfect. The travel industry really is one of the first industries that I say took advantage of the gig economy. When I owned agencies in the 80s, we had what we called outside salesmen. Today, we call them independent contractors, but basically it's the same thing. You may be going, wait a minute, hang on. I don't want to be a salesman. So this really isn't for me. I don't think you look at it that way. If you have a passion as it relates to travel, you may love cruising, you may love European history, you may love wine, you may love safaris, you may love fill in the blank. Can you see yourself telling your friends, hey, I'm putting together a trip for an African safari. We're going to see the migration of the herds. We're going to Kenya. We're going to Tanzania. We're going to be doing a hot air balloon over the wildebeest. Whatever it is, can you see telling them and having them say, yes, I'd love to join you. You're now selling travel. And the best part about it is, depending on the type of travel, the vendors offer free passage based on the number of paying guests. It could be 10, could be 8, could be 12, could be whatever. So all of a sudden, you and your significant other could be traveling to Africa in the most luxurious type of accommodations, free, which I don't know quite how you put that on a financial statement, but now you're going free because it's all being paid for as part of this group price. That to me is huge in terms of personal goals, personal success. So it's not just financial success, it's also your personal well-being success. So on a financial basis, this type of advisor role maybe isn't cash flow positive, but what a life. Of course, it could be where you don't want to go, and what you want to do is sell individual travel. And now that's another possibility. So while I'm just outlining a couple possibilities of financial models that make sense in our wonderful industry, You have to decide what your goals are, what you are passionate about, and then success can come to you.
Thank you, Roger. Very well said. And we have a lot of people now that are looking at joining our industry, and a lot of those are starting out as independent contractors, just like you said. So thank you today to our panel, Roger and Lee and Martin, for sharing those incredible insights. And I know between all of us, we have about 90 years of experience here on this call. So, it's great to be able to share that and be able to generate some interest out there for the industry and let people know about these opportunities. So thank you, gentlemen, for doing that today.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us.
So we want our listeners to know that you can sure have a partner in the travel industry with Internova Travel Group if you're looking for a career in travel. Internova Travel Group represents more than 62,000 travel advisors worldwide and ranks as one of the industry's largest travel service companies today. At Internova Travel Group, we have various business units that might speak directly to your needs. Please visit our website at www.internova.com to learn more about owning your own travel business or joining one of our great business units and become that force in the travel industry. Please join us next month in Economics of Owning a Travel Business, where we will speak to the topic of how Internova has helped others like you. Thank you for listening today. See you next time on this channel of Travel Talk with Internova.